but let's say, hypothetically, we fight,
which we never do.
Then, and I am having a righteous, selfish agenda, which
never happens.
Often happens. So I'm having a righteous and selfish agenda, and I am focused. The finality is me separated. And then I go to my room and I try to pray. My heart is dry.
Hello and welcome. You are listening to A Walk in the Heart, a podcast about Tantra, psychology and spirituality. Join us as we explore what spiritual wisdom can offer to people like you and me. Thank you for being here. Hello everyone. Today's session will be a little bit of a mixture of a lecture and some personal sharing and realizations and ranting on the subject of loving and integrating and balancing the relationship between us as individuals and the supreme, the everything, and in that also our community, couple relationships, families, and so forth. So we'll be getting to it in a moment, and we'd like to remind you that it really helps us a lot if you give us a like, a subscribe, a review, whatever podcast app you're on. It helps us to keep doing what we're doing. Also, let us know what you think about the podcast. There's certain subjects that you would like us to address. You can leave in the comments or write us an email on tantrayogachiangmai@gmail.com. Let's get to the episode. Welcome everybody to a new episode of A Walk in the Heart. I'm your host, Maya Meghana. I'm a psychologist, I'm a yoga teacher and Tantra teacher and a practitioner of spirituality for the past 15 years. Who are you?
I'm Uriel Yariv, and I comply with just about all those things: a psychologist, Tantra, yoga and meditation teacher, and above all a practitioner of the spiritual path.
In our session today, we want to speak about a subject that is quite close to Uriel's heart, and he has been contemplating a lot about it lately, which is this idea of the connection between the part and the whole, seeing our being as a part of a whole that it belongs to. And I would just say, let's just get to it. We will share some revelations, ideas that especially Uriel had around this subject, and then just comment and see a little bit where it goes. What do you think?
Positively, I think positively.
Shall we get to it?
Yes.
Let's do it.
All right, so the title, you can say, is Rising from Emotions to Devotion. And the idea is that inwardly, psychologically, each one of us has a mental representation of the whole. We have our little wholes that we are a part of: family, company, country, and bigger wholes like humanity, the planet, and eventually the big whole, be it God, be it the universe, be it all sentient beings, or whatever representation we have for that big whole. Now, whenever we look at the relationship between a part and a whole, there will be these two fundamental ingredients. The part will be a part of the whole, that is, it is included in the whole and to a degree united in the whole, like a cell is a part of an organ. So the heart cell is a part of the heart. It is united with the heart. It is the heart somehow. And there is, and that is the tendency of the part that goes towards unity. And there is in the part another tendency, another vector, you can say, which is being separate from the whole. So every little cell has a membrane, and that membrane keeps it somehow separated to a degree from the heart. If it wasn't for that membrane, it wouldn't be a part of the whole, it would be the whole. And this particular pattern, it returns wherever you go. There is a family. You are a part of that family. You see yourself united with that family. You are that family. There's maybe 4, you are that family. But also, and you have the interest of that family. Maybe you share money, you share house, you share this and that. And then also you have your sense of being separated from the family. You are cleaning on Wednesday, not on Thursday. And you have your own interest and you want your quiet after that hour and so forth. So there is this double tendency of being united with the whole and separated from the whole. And these, around that game, we find the entire play of the relationship of the part and the whole. And it stands, it is a landmark in our inner psychology.
Now, what do we do with this piece of information?
Now, this little piece of information is, in my opinion, the most, let's say, the entirety of this lecture is the most important piece of information or lecture or lesson in my life, and in my opinion, anybody that will understand what will come next, it will become very, very substantial for anyone's life.
So can you sum up just in one sentence what have we understood so far?
So, each one of us inwardly has a representation of the whole, and we have a double relationship with the whole. We feel a part of the whole united with the whole, and we feel to a degree separated from the whole. That's the beginning.
Now, what do we do with this?
What do we do with this? We can actively go and love more the wholes that we are a part of. Basically, any act of integration, any act of harmony will start from this loving the whole. If there is a family where the members of the family love each other, they would be happy. Their interaction would have meaning. If there is no love between them, or very little love, there will be tension, there will be hatred, there will be pain. Same with the company. Even if the company is making a profit, if the workers hate each other and hate the company, it will be a very tense and disgusting place. So when we love the whole, then the pieces are at peace, they are happy, and they feel that what they do has meaning. And when that love is not there, the whole integration, the whole relationship with the whole is meaningless. And people that hate the world, that hate the universe, there are people like that.
I think to a certain degree everybody has moments where they just hate the world.
Exactly. And in these moments, and if these moments are very frequent, you don't feel integrated anywhere. And life has no meaning. If you retrace anything that feels meaningful in life, it always comes down to, I serve a whole that I am a part of. My life has meaning because I'm serving this party that serves that country. My life has meaning because I'm saving the foxes and the whales, because I'm a part of the ecosystem and I care for that. My life has meaning because I help other Christians and Christianity is the whole. Or whatever it is your whole, anybody that will ever tell you my life has meaning, it will always boil down to that particular formula. I serve a whole that I love and that I am a part of. And if a person has a great meaning in their life, and they have done tremendous sacrifice, and they are like what we call great human beings, they are like that because they love tremendously whatever whole they are a part of, be it their country, the world, the universe, God, you name it.
So I'm thinking like this seems to me like conceptualization of some fundamental tantric ideas, namely the tantric walks the path as completely integrated, let's say, into the world. Mm-hmm. So that's the whole thing in Tantra. It's like, okay, it's not there's some faraway God that we strive for to get out of this sinful world, but it is the idea that everything created is sacred and everything that can be experienced is sacred, no matter if it is difficult or wonderful or whatever it might be. So the tantric will be in life and be with God at once. So we'll be integrating the spiritual and the profane. There's no difference basically for tantric between spiritual and profane. Like you have this song of Marpa, was it, with the glory of the heavens, know that to be divine perfection, and the awful confusions of your mind, know that to be divine perfection. So the idea is everything is divine perfection. And you could think, okay, how does a path look like practically? Because it's all nice ideas, right? Yeah, sure, everything is sacred, good. But how does a path like that look like? And I would argue that actually a lot of the paths that are currently on this planet available pretty much go in that direction, even though they may not be doing it, as practical and as conscious. But if I just think of the Buddha, right, this whole idea of walking the middle path, the whole idea of balance, that sounds for me like a very tantric idea. And what you're describing there is basically, okay, I'm a little liver cell here, or whatever I am. I'm a little heart cell. And if I can find a balanced, integrated way of being part of this heart that I'm already a part of, then that would determine an unfolding of my life that would be balanced, and that would, let's say, give me the greatest chance of revealing the sacred and the godly in every moment as I go, right? Because if I'm in balance now, then there's no need for me to resist what is happening, for example, which is one of the major enemies in Tantra. It's like, all right, if everything is divine perfection, what's the problem? Well, the problem is that we resist what is going on, right? Something beautiful is going on, and then we're already thinking of how that beautiful thing will be gone later, and that will be horrible. Or we create a selfish agenda and desires from the wonderful thing going on, and that ticks us off later on. Oh, something bad is happening, we don't want it, we reject it. So resistance to what is going on is a big problem. And if I understand you right, that's at least the first thing that I'm taking away from this revelation that you're presenting is, okay, this balanced, integrated attitude towards life and everything that happens can be acquired by having a harmonious relationship with life and everything that happens. That makes total sense to me. And then if we would say, okay, what does that mean practically? Because maybe I don't wake up in the morning and feel filled with love for life itself. Maybe that's too abstract for me in that day, and that's just not working, and maybe I just don't feel that way in that day. Then for me, this revelation you're presenting would, let's say, open up a practice, basically, where I could say, all right, I don't love life right now, but I do know this mechanism that integration for me as the little liver or heart cell is created by loving that which I am a part of. And that means I could sit down now and think, okay, so what am I a part of? Well, for sure I'm part of my family. Let me love them. For sure I'm part of my school, of my class. For sure I'm part of my relationship. Maybe I'm part of something more global. I'm part of this movement. I'm part of this beautiful thought. I'm a yogi. I feel myself part of that tradition. And if then lovingly I contribute to that, then I will, so to say, come to this balanced place in life. Is that what you're talking about?
Yes. Love will harmonize if you love your yoga school, your family, your relationship, because a couple is also a whole, and if you love the couple will be in harmony, then you will bring harmony to the blandine, which is a part of the couple, to the blandine, which is a part of the family, to the blandine, it is a part of the yoga school. And this kind of love for, as we coined it now, little holes, as from whole. So the love with a W in the beginning. So the love for the little holes is a very good step, because loving the big whole, the entirety of the universe, God, all sentient beings, whatever each person names it individually, that might be a bit abstract to start with. And then loving the little ones, you will see that when I love my family actively, and this is what we learn, like you mentioned in Tantra, we learn to love actively and to grow in love and to love more every day, a little more, little more, little more. And in months and years, we learn to love tremendously. So by loving shamelessly, immensely, tremendously our family will come to harmony. And this is what I noticed with my family. And by loving intensely the relationship, the relationship will come to harmony. And loving our workplace and the whole that we create with our company, or in our case, this yoga school, will bring harmony, will bring success, will bring prosperity, will bring joy and great meaning to what we do. And you will always detect troubles begin when that love is gone.
Yeah, I find it super interesting. It's pretty obvious, but I'm just making this correlation now that so many questions that we get, I would say on a daily basis by now, on couple relationships, on how to harmonize couple life, on how to even just speak to each other, really, even just be with each other. I feel it's so interesting how, you might sit there and be that great yogi that you are, and that great tantric, and you do your 24 sun salutations in the morning and your hour of Vata yoga and what have you. And you sort of, we can even live in this illusion of, well, look at me, I'm loving the world, I'm doing yoga, I'm paying my bills, I'm contributing. But then I feel this for me is one of the greatest measurements on how far are you really letting your practice touch life, which is one of the, I feel, fundamental things in Tantra, is how does that contribution that you're so fond of actually translate to this little love and offering into the small holes, like you call them, these smaller groups, segments, or whatever that we are part of. And I would argue that 95% of drama in couple relationships is reduced when you learn to love the couple. When you stop thinking about yourself excessively, because you will need to also think of, okay, how can we, manage here? What are my needs? Obviously, that needs to be expressed. But to ask yourself, okay, in this moment in my couple, and not to ask anymore, okay, what am I getting out of this? Obviously, when we speak about abusive situations, it's different. But not to ask yourself, what am I getting out of this? But to ask, okay, how can I love the couple? Sometimes loving the couple means to break up. Sometimes loving the couple means to severely cut down on your own petty little needs and things. And I feel very often when I speak to couples and see what problems they have, and also from the problems I've encountered in couple relationships, if there is a lack of willingness to, first of all, love that being of the couple, and to nourish that being first, before you start screaming at the other how they are wrong, before you start blaming the other, before you start criticizing the other, before you start being contemptuous, before you unload all your bullshit on the relationship, to ask, how can I love this relationship? How can I integrate myself into this relationship by loving it, what can I offer? Can I offer something? Maybe also you notice, well, I'm actually not ready to offer something to a relationship. Then don't expect a harmonious outcome. I find it very interesting. Same with your yoga practice. That's also, I feel, an integration of, that's your contribution to the universe as well. Are you willing and ready to harmoniously love and give and offer and have a wonderful harmonious feeling towards that practice? Practice that isn't done from that love of wanting to integrate into the universe. It's beautiful, but it's not, it will not hit the spot of really pushing you forward on the path of transformation, I would argue. Same with friendship, same with family integrations, as you say.
Yes, and then from here, we can start to contemplate the next step, which is, first of all, what is our current concept of the whole? What do you think? The big whole, the everything, to quote St. John of the Cross, the everything. What is for you the everything? Some call it the universe, some call it God, some call it all sentient beings. Probably people have much more creative names than these three that I spoke of.
Sentient.
Sentient. Okay, thanks for the correction. So, we have a concept already. And for some, the everything is kind of mostly humanity. For others, it is humanity in the ecosystem and some planets which are almost irrelevant. And for others, there is a spiritual whole. So the everything is conscious. Others perceive I'm a part of a conscious universe. Consciousness and spirit used. I'm a part of a spiritual universe. I am a part of that. And others consider I'm a part of a physical universe and only humans are conscious. And as you start to play with that concept of everything, you will find that to a degree you have an emotional relationship to that. You either love the everything, you are indifferent to it, you are angry to it, you want to revenge against it, you want to offer yourself to it. There is already an existing relationship. Now, what I have noticed is that you can really evaluate how happy, how successful, and how integrated a person would be in relation to that whole. How you relate to the entirety of the universe is, in my opinion, one of the best indicators for your level of happiness, integration, and success. If you have a certain hatred, dissatisfaction, disappointment, fear, any kind of negative emotion, you name it, in front of that whole, it will reflect negatively, substantially in your life. And if you have a positive, devotional, happy, even if you consider the universe to be unconscious, but you still love it, that's fine, wonderful. That love will bring success, integration, and happiness into your life. So the first step would be to check how we feel towards the whole. And then the second step would be to start increasing our positive emotions towards the whole. And most important, love. Once the shift of our relation, we can do this consciously, of course, through tantric methods, you learn to love more. And through many spiritual methods. But as you purify your individual relationship with the whole, this will include, with the big whole, with the everything, this would include what? Everything. Once you love that more, and you clear out all your hatred, confusion, negotiation, revenge, fear, whatever you have there, and replace that with fresh, vivid love, then that love will go also to your work, also to your relationship with yourself, with your own body, with your own emotions. It will heal inner conflict. It will heal relationship conflict. And it will give as we said before, a tremendous sense of meaning to everything. And if you read the lives of any great man, they always had that. They had a very intense, vivid love for the great, great whole.
Yeah, I find it interesting somehow that in this process of you could even say abusing religion and spirituality for societal means, like, creating a society by the rules of religion, right? Putting God there as a scapegoat for all your silly human laws and so on. That really upsets the relationship of the part with the whole. That, it creates an immediate tension, an immediate guilt.
Mm-hmm.
It's hard to love something that you feel guilty in front of, and if you have drilled into your head, and I mean, maybe 100 years ago it was like, oh, God sees everything, don't masturbate, don't do this, don't do that, and because somebody's watching, and you should really feel crappy about that, and you should not have a loving relationship to God, but you should have a fearful relationship in front of God. And then nowadays you take the God word out of the equation, and you put their big brother is watching you, and or I don't know what, in front of your government, or because otherwise you're not woke, and then people will hate you, or whatever thing it is. There's this impregnated guilt into the relationship of the part with the whole. Like, this is something that stands out for me when you describe this, and I envision it practically, right? And I see a society, or even just a family, or a couple, or even just a single person relating to the whole. There's that would look way different if all of a sudden that relating would be mainly be motivated by love and by balance and by care, right? If I just think about in my difficult moments, in my moments of crises, and especially spiritual crises, when I don't feel as connected to God, then it would be typically because I feel guilty in front of God, right? Or because I'm afraid of God, or maybe I feel, oh my God, what kind of effort would I have to make in order to unify with the whole? It just seems too much. It's too this, it's too that. But it's exactly as you say, it all of a sudden becomes a tainted relationship with the whole. Whereas when exactly like in the couple, and I mean, we've had this experience with each other a lot, when we step in front of each other with guilt, any type of guilt, immediately we enter conflict. Like, it's like clockwork. You can predict it with a 99.999% success rate. You can tell, okay, now I'm stepping in front of my beloved with some negative, like deeper negative impregnation, deeper negative attitude that I have towards this relationship. And it will predict to the T, at least breaking in that moment, right? And if then it is accumulated, and I think we could both agree that in like the crisis that we've been going through in our relationship, it would always be dominated by some sort of negative emotion, and very often guilt.
Yes.
Very often, I did something, and I'm not how I ought to be in this relationship. I'm not who I ought to be. I'm not the lover that I should be. And then you can see, it's really interesting how also how we get modeled by society, that there is also in Hollywood movies and by our parents, and so often it is this, hey, you owe me something, and you're not doing this right, and let me criticize you for who you are, and for what you do, and for how you feel, and for what you present, and let me point the finger continuously, because we are so indoctrinated with feeling guilt. And it's interesting how then people start to feel guilty because they feel guilty,
Yes.
and because they live on that background. We are really like dialed in, and I mean, Nietzsche was speaking a lot about this guilt society that we are.
Yeah. He said, without guilt, society would crumble.
Yeah, at least society as we know it now, right? And then we put that, we slap that concept onto the relationship that we have with God, with the whole, with the universe, with the family, with the job, with the purpose. as well. And we might not even notice. In the same way that somehow, like what I always find fascinating studying the chakras, we have this really distorted lens of looking upon the world through the specific chakra that is most awakened for us, for most of us, the sexual level, right? Svadhisthana chakra. And it seems to even go together with this guilt trip, with this, how does the world see me? How should I bend myself, adjust myself, put myself into something that I'm actually not, so that society will have me, so that my lover will have me, so that, I have a chance. I would argue that a lot of mental illness is born from this particular twist somehow. And if then I think of a model where I relax about myself and just be myself in front of the whole. Just imagine, like in that movie, The Invention of Lying. It's not the greatest movie in the world, but the concept is interesting. This idea of people not being able to lie, right? Imagine you would just be who you are in front of all the holes, This is me in front of the law. Imagine criminals wouldn't lie about what they were doing. They would just come and they would be like, guys, did this thing, that wasn't cool, I want to repent, I want to pay my sentence or whatever. Like, just imagine what a different kind of world that would be. And you can sort of do that in the small, right? Like, same way that when we step in front of each other and we feel guilt and we, carry all our own little petty things and worries that we want to have our agenda met, and worries that the other one will see how guilty and crappy we are, and worries about, our own little selfish vision of the world, then we enter crises. But when we step in front of each other and we are just as we are, even just to be like, look, I'm just feeling awful and I'm breaking apart, then immediately the other one is there to hold space for that, right? And to embrace that. And the whole of the relationship is embracing the other one, even in their guilt. Even just saying, look, I just feel awfully guilty right now. Look, I feel abandoned. I feel mistreated. I don't know if you are mistreating me, but this is how I feel, And all of a sudden there's a space in which the whole embraces the part somehow. And I feel it's the same for me with God. When I assume God, the universe, my purpose, to be something out there that I have to feel guilty in front, then that will immediately put me in crisis with that, and will put me into tension, will put me into a weird, distorted version of myself. But when I'm sitting honestly and I look at God and I'm like, you know what, I'm really curious what you want. I'm really interested what is the godly will. I'm willing to step aside, to sacrifice my agenda, to sacrifice what I think is right and what is wrong, because I'm really interested in you, God. I'm really interested in what you are all about. I'm really interested in what does the universe want from me right now. Not in a weird way, but in a way where I allow the universe to embrace me and to take me back in. And from that, what I've experienced is a lot of correction happens. Like whenever I put myself in front of God and I'm like, look, I know, I did this, I said that, I had that opinion, but what do I know? I'm interested in you. I love you. I want to feel intimate with you. What do you, God? What do you, life? What do you, universe, want right now? What is in you right now? How are you coming to be inside of me right now? And then like within our relationship, huge corrections would happen from that. Within my relationship with my family, huge corrections would happen from that. Within my life, huge corrections would happen from that, because all of a sudden I could say, well, I stood for something 5 minutes ago, but I don't know. What do I know? I'm not interested in that no longer, because all I'm interested in is I want to love God in this. I want to fulfill God's will in this, right? And it's like a whole different way of relating.
Yes, this, you see, if the parts love the whole will be healthy and integrated and everything will be all right. When the parts don't love the whole enough, when people are not inspired to serve, then the little wholes, they will start to impose the will of the whole over the little ones. How will they do that? Through fear, through guilt, through shame? Saying basically, look, you have your selfish agenda. You don't care about the whole. You don't care about the company. But if you don't take care of the company, you don't get your money. Or you'll be shouted at. Or you'll be threatened one way or another.
Yeah, or ridiculed socially or whatever.
Yes, and then the guilt is somehow, let's say, taking that in and having, let's say, an ambassador of the society or of the whole, be it the family, the company, the school, humanity, society, having that inside and saying, I have done something against the little whole, country, family, whoever, company, and therefore I will punish myself in advance. And then you get less punished. Apparently that's the promise. But this pushing, like you said, people took the concept of God and used it to gain political power by pressing from the whole to the parts so that the parts will comply to the interest of the so-called whole, which is not actually the whole. It is the leaders of the whole, like it was in communist Russia. They were not serving the poor. They were serving a bunch of another elite. They had one elite of the king, they took out the king elite, and then they had the communist elite. And everybody were slaves now of that. So they just changed it. It was an abusive relationship. And also in many different religions, in darker periods where politicians are the big priests and not saints, because religions, they start with saints and degenerate often to politicians, but when politicians sit on the throne of the big priest of that particular religion, then they would use the people as if for the whole by scaring them, making them feel guilty, making them feel afraid, and then in their own selfish, because you are afraid of sin, of punishment, you are afraid of physical punishment like in the Inquisition or whatever, then you would comply and serve the so-called whole, which is actually not the whole. You would serve the elite, which are in power of this concept of the whole. You see, the king would be, in the good sense, or let's say in both senses, it's an embodiment of the whole. Louis XIV, I am France. Whatever they would say there, Hess, he said about Hitler, Hitler is Germany and Germany is Hitler. So the whole, I took two bad wholes there, but these are the quotes that I have in mind, but the whole will be represented through the leader, or the old king of Thailand. Thailand is the king, and that kind of love, or adoration, or service to the king would be actually service to the whole of France, or to the whole of Nazi Germany, or to the whole of Thailand with the good king that was here some years ago. In any case, this is an abusing of this concept of the whole. Yeah, this creating guilt and fear and so forth in the relationship with the whole is a or an abusive power in which it's not actually the whole. The king doesn't think about France, he thinks about the king. The king doesn't love France, it loves the king.
Yeah,
but it pretends to be France, but it's not.
But if it does love the country and becomes the country,
exactly, then it serves as a unifying factors, as were good and wonderful leaders and kings. Like Gandhi was India's, the father of a nation. They still call him father. It has a Hindi name that I heard, but I forgot. But they still, even he was not officially the prime minister, he was the uniting factor.
Yeah.
Gandhi was the image of the whole independence, Mandela of the whole of South Africa. And this is what was Mandela doing after election, when he was embracing the white people. Which the white people, when they were in charge, they were definitely not embracing the black people. So Mandela was a real leader, and that way he was really loved, because he embraced also the minority, strong minority, it's true, but he embraced both, and that's made him a real leader. Now, like you said, if we have these negative emotions towards the whole, it will influence, because the whole is everything, and be it God or the whole universe, if there is any kind of negative emotion there that blocks away love, it will influence all levels of the being. So, cultivating this love for whatever whole that we have will influence and will benefit every aspect of our life. And that love can become extremely vivid. Extremely, as the king would represent the country and Gandhi would represent India, so different traditions gave another image to the whole. Some say Brahman, the absolute, without attributes, pure bliss, pure consciousness, pure existence. In the monotheistic tradition also, God without form, and sometimes appears there on this chariot of fire with the cherubim as the wheels and so forth. And others, they say, no, the whole, in order to become accessible so that we can be devoted to it, will appear to us as Christ or as Krishna. And then loving whatever representation, and the point that I'm making is that it doesn't matter. I mean, it should be an integrated thing, like something that has spiritual power, but in all religions, the mechanism will be the same. If you love Christ or if you love Krishna, you will go through a similar, of course there are nuances which are different in the process, but you will go in general lines through the same process. Or if you love the unmanifested absolute, you will go through similar processes. Or if you love all sentient beings, and that is your whole, you will go through at least a similar process. Once this love towards the whole becomes very, very vivid inside of you, as vivid and eventually far more vivid and intense than your love for your lover, than your love for your mother, your father, your best friend. Once that love towards your divine ideal, the Krishna God, Christ, whoever is your divine ideal, it will create, first of all, a state of tremendous sweetness. And if you read all the biographies of saints from all traditions, that ineffable sweetness, which is more sweet than anything that you can experience with any kind of sensual interaction. It's completely beyond any kind of worldly joy. This particular love that you feel for the big everything. And that sweetness would become, in my opinion, the best indicator that would help you determine if you have a good attitude, if you have a harmonious attitude, an integrated attitude, and from that sweetness, every choice that you make will be a good choice. And in the absence, once you have that sweetness awakened, when you cannot access that sweetness now in this moment, you can be sure that something stands and blocks your integration and that your choices would be wrong. So, to put a little bit light on this, I can just say from my life, when I can access this tremendous love that I feel for the whole, me, I have a clear concept of God, plain and simple. So, When I can love God very intensely, I know that my attitude, for example, towards you, or towards the students, or towards whatever, or towards my friends, my family, will be integrated, will be harmonious. I will make choices which are based in love and not in selfishness. They are choices that are based on the togetherness, on the unity, and not on my sense of separation, not on me as a finality, but love and the whole as a finality. And then if I cannot feel that love, let's say we're having a fight, which we never fight. We never fight. We agree on that. But let's say, hypothetically, we fight. Which we never do. Then, and I am having a righteous, selfish agenda, which
never happens.
Often happens. So I'm having a righteous and selfish agenda, and I am focused. The finality is me separate. And then I go to my room and I try to pray. My heart is dry. I feel no love. And then I think to myself, this is what I want. I want to be selfish and get my agenda so Blandine will be under my control because I am right. And I lose my relationship with God for that. Am I that stupid? Like, I know I am stupid in many things, but that stupid? And then what happens is I pray very intensely to return to that sweetness, to return to that love. And this attitude stands out and resists. It says, no, I don't want to love the whole. I want to be right. Look what you did to me. You cannot start thinking about other things. If you love the whole, you will lose your agenda. If you lose your agenda, she will step on you. I said, yeah, sure. Let everyone in this world step on me. But I want to love God. I am the doormat of doormats, but I want to love God. And eventually that wish for love and that active wish for renunciation will dissolve that. And then I normally go knock on your door and apologize for being an idiot. And I say, look, this is this and this. I had that agenda. It stands out. Before I start to love God, I don't even know where I'm selfish and where I should stand for my rights or whatever is there. So that love for God, in my case, love for the whole in the general case, will create a state of integration, of harmony, will create a selfless state.
Yeah, I want to add something here to the definition that you put out. I agree with everything you say. I want to give it some nuance. Like you said, okay, if once you love God, the whole, the whatever, more than your lover, your so and so. I would reformulate that a bit, because from a tantric viewpoint, the love of the family, the this, the that, is as much God as everything else is. And from the example that you said, it lends itself to believe that, as I also see it, the particular way that we act with people around us tells a lot about our love that we have for God. If you think you love God, but your relationships break every other month, you're not loving God.
Exactly.
If you think you're loving God, but in your job you keep screaming at people like all the time and you do not care about them, you're not loving God. If you think you're loving God and you make a crusade, I hope that's not something that people still do a lot, you're not loving God. And I feel this should be a direct measurement for people. You put it so nicely in your example. How much are you able to step back and to say, you know what, I'm human, I make mistakes, right? That's fair enough. I'm human, I have needs, that's fair enough. But here I am willing to renounce all of that, because I love God. Not because I need you, person. Not because I need you, job. Not because I am guilty in front of blah, blah, blah. And because I have concepts in my mind that are just, going through my machinery of the mind and so on. No, it's plain and simple. The way you love people is the way you love God. The way you love God will directly reflect into the way that you love people.
Yes.
Your relationships keep going down. Your friendships are breaking. You are lonely. Reconsider your relationship with God.
Yes.
You are using a concept of God to
Exactly.
maybe feel a little bit better about yourself. But I feel this is such a direct translation. And what I've seen, and in an impressive way, with some of our students that came with such problems of being isolated, being, you know how it is, the lonely people are usually the most selfish people, and having like all these problems of not being able to connect to people, but having a big wish to love God, and having a concept of something supreme, of something elevated, of something bigger than themselves. They could turn relationships around. They could turn I'm the lonesome cowboy here that has to be hidden in the corner and that has to wail about how awful everybody else is, could turn that around into truthful, beautiful relationships where they would become naked from their soul, because they would start to become naked in front of God and not have this sort of conceptualized mental image of God, which is not expressed, within their day-to-day life. So I find that really impressive how some of our students have been able to love God, understand that, hey, if I want to love God, if I want to love the Supreme, if I really want to get enlightened, I cannot stay with this sort of attitude towards people. I will have to open my eyes and realize that all my love relationships go to shreds after maximum 6 months. I will have to realize that I have no friends because I treat them awfully. I will have to realize that I don't have a purpose because I'm not in touch with God. And the beauty that can arise from then loving God and turning it around. And I find it very wonderful also what you've been bringing to our community in the past year, this attitude and also knowledge of bhakti, like you've been studying bhakti in our study groups and so on, and bringing this idea of loving God more as a central aspect, and within it, understanding that the way that you relate to everything in your life is a direct reflection of that. How am I loving God? Check. What happens throughout your day? How much do you sacrifice in order to know others, in order to be intimate, in order to be deep, in order to be vulnerable and open and visible? How much do you bend your head and say, hey, I'm sorry. I want to humble myself in front of you. Doesn't matter how much you hurt me or what you did or what is going on. This, what I did, it wasn't right, and I'm sorry. Right? How often are you able to do that? How often can you say, well, you know what? Maybe I don't know. Maybe I don't know what is ticking inside of the other one. Maybe I can ask. Maybe I don't know what God's plan is with this right now. Maybe I can ask him. Maybe I can let him. Maybe I don't have to slap my grandiose ideas of the world on top of this, or my meek ideas, or whatever it is. And I find this maybe for me the most inspiring part, because I'm always after the tantric viewpoint somehow. I find this correlation somehow so useful. Understanding, all right, how is my relationship to God? How is my love for the whole? How is my love for the smaller wholes, as you call them, around me? And then how can that sort of, intimacy that my soul really longs for come to its perfection in loving God, and then have many steps on the way to perfection by coming to a perfect love within my couple relationship, my friendships, my community, my organization, my job, my purpose, my country, my human race, my planet, my solar system, my Jesus, my God, or whatever your situation might be.
Yes. So our time seems to be close close to an end. And just as a concluding word, I would say that...
Yeah, what's our takeaway here?
Anything that's not working in your life can work much better through this one formula. Love the little holes and love the big hole. And if you are able to grow that love, and there are methods like active love and others you can find in our other
and we will make
materials.
podcasts about it, and then you'll hear.
Yes, and I think we might also have YouTubes or workshops.
Yeah,
we do.
You can check out our YouTube channel, Mahasiva.
Yes, so if you grow in that love to the big hole, of course, would be the most excellent, but also to the small holes, you will see that any problem of your life will be, at least to a degree, solved. And anywhere that you are mediocre or feel bored or feel meaningless, it will become meaningful, enthusiastic, and fantastic, brilliant and amazing. If you are able to grow substantially that love, and it is possible, and I speak from my own experience and from the experience of the students that have seen growing on this path, and from all the dozens of biographies that I've read, very impressive people, it's always the essence of any kind of integrated success, not a selfish success. There are many ways of selfish success which has a very high price. But an integrated success, a success which is a success for everyone and a success for me, an integrated success will always have as a background driving force, as a background inner state, this love for the whole. And that can be increased, and basically anything in life can be and will be improved dramatically and revolutionized by growing dramatically, intensely this love. I feel it and see it as the essential challenge of every human being.
Yeah, and maybe one last thing that I find important to consider is that we all only exist as a part of the whole. It is not that we could be without the whole.
Yeah, without oxygen, for example.
Yeah, without the universe around us, without the people around us, it just wouldn't exist. We are all waves on the ocean. Mm-hmm. It is foolish, let's say, to believe that you as a wave could exist without the ocean. It just doesn't work out. Meaning, if you want to do anything good for yourself, if that is a motivation that you have, that you want to do good things for yourself, you want to love yourself, the only way to do so is to love the whole, because you are part of that whole. Yes. When you love the whole, that beautiful love that you put in, that sacrifice that you put in, that humbleness that you put in order to love the whole, will arrive to you because you are part of the whole. And this is definitely something that, for me, always these moments of switching from selfishness through practice, through prayer, through whatever it is, realization, to reintegrating, coming back to a virtuous way of being and so forth. Those are always moments where this shift happens of opening up again, becoming again part of the system around. And then whatever I nourish into that will return to me, and whatever I felt cut off from will all of a sudden be available again in a miraculous way.
Yes, very wonderful.
So guys, I hope you enjoyed this subject. Please like, subscribe, leave us a review. It helps us to do what we are doing, to keep doing what we're doing and do even more of it. So please be so kind and do that. Also, let us know in the comments what do you think. Write us an email on tantrayogachiangmai@gmail.com. Let us know if there's subjects that you would like us to speak about. If you have any questions, we'd be very happy to hear from you. What do you say?
Yes, and then our slogan is first love and then do. And now you understand with the context of this lecture why. First love, and then do.
So we wish you a wonderful time loving the whole, and under that pretext, first love, and then do. We'll see you around. Hey guys, if you like this video, make sure to like and subscribe to our YouTube channel for more content on spirituality, Tantra and more.
And if you want to sign up for our online classes or for our retreats, you can see our website on the description below.